As you come into this space, whether you are joining us for the first time, this is really day 5 of our being together in this space online. And we'll be doing the same next week, same time, same station, new Zoom URL, and you'll all receive a notification about that. But as you find yourself taking your seat or joining us in this space, whether for the first time or whether you've been here for all 5 of the sessions. Giving yourself over to the sense of hearing. And just seeing if you can hear not merely with your ears, but also in some sense with the tuning fork, if you will, of your whole body and your heart. Hearing the presence of everybody who has arranged their lives while on this extended worldwide retreat to make this time available for joining in a kind of global sangha, sharing in Indra's net of deep interconnectivity and the realization of how deeply interconnected we are. And coming to just hear the silence inside and underneath my words, inside and underneath the thought stream in your own mind, the beating of your own heart, and just inviting yourself home, letting go of the past, letting go of the future, just for now. And giving yourself over to this timeless present moment. Either using the breath sensations in the body as an anchor for your attention and coming back to the belly or the nostrils or the chest or the breath, wherever it's most vivid every time the mind wanders, or moving straight into what we've been calling choiceless awareness or open presence or shikantaza in Japanese, or uh, uh, silent illumination in the Jon tradition. We're simply resting in the boundless spaciousness of our own awareness, our own wakefulness, right in this moment. And the fact there are thousands of it, the fact that there are thousands of us here together is really emblematical of how much this is truly a love affair with what's deepest and best in us as human beings, and in terms of our longing for a recognition of how to live sanely on this earth. So in whatever ways you choose to, just settling in. No place to go, nothing to do, no special state or something to attain. You're already whole, complete as you are, and good enough for now, even in the face of this mind-blowing full catastrophe on the planet that we are facing now. Much as people at different times throughout human history have faced in the past, but with far more potential for our understanding how to modulate ourselves in relationship to it and ride on these waves to some new way of being on this planet. And it's all right here, right now, in this very moment. So inviting awareness to become your default mode, your home base, your abode, your refuge, where for now we can be safe and free from inner and outer harm. And ironically, while this falling awake has the element of appearing to be more or less no big deal at all or nothing at all, this little nothing we're calling mindfulness and heartfulness turns out to be just about everything when it comes right down to it, and to the question of how we shall be in relationship with the good, the bad, and the ugly as it arises in our day, in our lifetimes, and in this world. So while it looks like doing nothing, it's actually the tuning to our native capacity for clear seeing, for wisdom, for the impulse to contribute and help in the face of the suffering of others, less fortunate perhaps than ourselves. And so compassion in action. And it all wells up and is present right in this moment of non-doing, of resting in being, in silence. Even when I'm speaking like this, underneath the words, to where the words are pointing. Putting out the welcome mat for whatever arises. Whatever arises, it's all welcome. And we're learning and we're training, so to speak, to be in wise relationship with it all. So that when it is time to act, to do, to engage, whether it's with our children as we're at home together, or whether it's with our work, if we still have work, or whatever it's involving, that we bring the full dimensionality of our awareness and of our hearts to it. And it's all already here right now. And the more we nurture it, the more access to it develops, grows, flowers, manifests as clarity and equanimity and generosity and compassion. When our doing, when our doing comes out of being. Where is your mind in this moment? Where is your heart in this moment? How is it in the body in this moment? Is it possible to be fully here with no agenda in this moment other than to be fully here, fully awake, fully in touch, not a prisoner of our fears or projections or thoughts, or even the circumstances and conditions we find ourselves in, rending and challenging as they are. I've said on a number of different occasions that in circumstances like this, the thing that is most not helpful is to lose our minds when we most need the full dimensionality of our mind to be available to us 24/7, if you will. And the same with the heart, because in the English language, as we know, there's a differentiation between mind and heart. In many Asian languages, there isn't. And so the curriculum at this moment on our enforced retreat with all the sort of languaging of social distancing and everything, these kinds of phenomena that are occurring on the web are actually bringing us more together. And there are thousands of them. There's so many different Dharma teachers that are out there offering whatever it is that they feel is most appropriate in these circumstances. And it's just simply beautiful. And we're just one small wave in that much larger ocean. And playfully, I'm going to challenge you to ask yourself as I continue talking whether, hey, is the guided meditation over and is Jon now giving a talk, or is this part of the meditation? And of course, those of you who know me well will realize that there is, I'm pointing at no separation, whatever. There is no separation between the end of the meditation and the beginning of life. All life is the meditation practice in that way. And when we intend for that to be the case, even if we lose it a million times and we get caught up in fear and anger or, just depression at the circumstances and the ways our lives are being changed, and in many, many ways changed forever, that we've passed a certain kind of threshold or barrier in the world that we're never going back to the way it was. God knows what the future is going to have in store for us, but we have a huge amount to say in that regard. And that too will be part of the meditation practice. And that has to do with often the levels of kind of pain and suffering that were built in, baked into our societies. And I'm speaking mostly of my own society, my own country, in even the structure of our laws to, sort of reinforce endemic injustices, to reinforce a certain kind of privilege of a certain kind in a very small number of people, and everybody else really hurting for even the potential for livelihood, right livelihood. And now all of that is up for grabs. And when this happens, very often what nations do is they try to get more power to control circumstances even more in the future. And part of this challenge of being free, of the liberative dimension of meditation, is to actually assert that we are cells of the one body of this planet and the body politic, and that all humans, all life comes first, and not wealth and the accumulation of unimaginable levels of wealth, often at the expense of huge numbers of people who work for a living or can't find work for a living. And so that we just honor that and hold that in our hearts as well, the levels of privilege and the levels of poverty, the levels of injustice and bias and implicit bias and so forth that actually have been here for a very long time, globally in many ways, and where we have a chance to reboot the entire system and make life the primary foundational ground of what unfolds from here, where all people basically can experience sufficiency, where all people can be safe and free from inner and outer harm, where all beings have the opportunity, the real opportunity and resources to contribute in the world in ways that are satisfying. And that's part of this meditation practice. If we're talking about freedom, it can't just be freedom for some. If we're talking about liberation, we're talking about for, as they say, all beings. And if we get caught in those personal pronouns we were talking about too much, then, you know, the I, me, and mine actually can actually be a form, the attachment to it can be a form of violence where, you know, not only do we shut other people out, but in a way we might shut out what is deepest and best in ourselves out of fear, out of desperation, out of sadness or despair. And that's what this practice can nurture in us, is the exact opposite, the antidote to that, so to speak, to really learn to live in our true nature, truest nature, by nurturing what's deepest and best and most available to us. And that is, of course, the domain of the heart, the domain of the mind, the domain of a human life. And if you think about it in global terms or universal terms, we occupy a very, very tiny little planet going around a totally insignificant sun someplace off in some corner of a spiral galaxy that itself has trillions of stars that have probably billions of planets in just this galaxy. And then there are unthinkable numbers of galaxies, in the same way as there are unthinkable numbers of neurons and neuronal connections in our own little old brain that's right inside our cranium. So we are miraculous beings living in a kind of unbelievably vast universe. And if we are going to really care about what happens on this planet, whether it's global warming, or whether it's the outcome of this coronavirus, this pandemic that we're all experiencing, we need to take care of the fundamentals once and for all. So this becomes a very, very profound wake-up call for humanity to actually cultivate what's deepest and best in us: wisdom, compassion, all forms of intelligence, and celebrate them in poetry and music and science and art and in education and in encounters that minimize our impulses for violence and for selfing and maximize our impulses for caring and for helping. And of course, you know, that's something that each one of us may or may not resonate with, each in our own way. But I think that's in large part the curriculum of this moment and the challenge in this moment to not get caught too much in those small personal narratives of me, myself, and I, and lose touch with the sense that there's a big we that needs to be embraced on this planet, or we could create a dystopian future that will make what we're going through now look like child's play and eradicate the potential for freedom and liberation that when we take our seats in this way. Right now, we have the good fortune of being free in this very moment. And then if we live that way for our children and for our grandchildren and for our grandchildren's grandchildren, then I think everybody wants the same thing: to minimize harm, including our own potential for harming ourselves and others, and to optimize well-being, resilience, intelligences of all sorts, beauty, and possibility. So that said, and this being the fifth of our first week of getting together every day on this platform, in this space, because we're using two platforms, the Zoom for the first 1,000, and that may change by next week. We're experimenting with how to make this feel like there's no separation between any of us. That's part of the beauty of this, is that there really is no separation between any of us. And you would not be on this call or in this space if you didn't in some sense know that. And so we're kind of like tuning in to, in some sense, affirm our belonging and affirm our presence and affirm our view. And there's no one view or one right view. I'm trying to be as provocative as possible and stretching the envelope in whatever ways possible to, so that we will look deeply into the nature of what our responsibility is on this planet for our own species and for those who are suffering the most under the circumstances that we're finding ourselves in, and even before these circumstances, who are always suffering the most and who get the least. And that, as I was saying earlier, in terms of, say, the one body of the planet or of the body politic, you know, if the heart takes all the blood and the lungs don't get any, or the bones don't get any, or the you know, the brain doesn't get any, what use is that? I mean, you know, so ego trips along the sort of self-importance are absurd when it comes to interconnectedness. And now is in some sense, you know, past time for the human species to actually ask ourselves these deep questions about where evolution is taking us, and where cultural evolution is taking us, and how to make governing and governments and education work for all beings, for the sake of the benefit and the health of all beings on this tiny little planet that is kind of like, you know, we're out there, and as far as we know, all alone in our neighborhood at least. And how are we going to thread this needle in a way that has integrity, that really has heart, that has, you know, some form of intelligence, so we don't destroy ourselves or cause harm to each other in even more unthinkable ways, worse than the coronavirus, which is bad enough, as we all know, terrifying. And so just a shout out again to all of those who may be, if you are, on the front lines of fighting this epidemic, the medical workers of all kinds, the nurses, the doctors, the ER docs, and so forth, and to your families and everybody else. And just know that we're all, in some sense, part of this one seamless web of interconnectedness, and expressing profound gratitude for your being on the front lines of this. People are using the war metaphor a lot these days. And in many ways, it is moving into the breach and trying to stem the number of casualties from this biological phenomenon that is cyclical, that visits life on this planet, including human life on this planet, periodically, and that we could use our profound scientific understanding to actually get better at dealing with for future pandemics, which are bound to come as well. The worst pandemic, of course, is the pandemic of human ignorance and greed and hatred and delusion that sometimes so imprisons us as we collapse into those personal pronouns, and more for me at the expense of whoever it is. I don't think that can be tolerated anymore. And that in some ways we have to restructure our societies and build in laws that are the absolute inverse of the kind of injustice that's often built into our laws to privilege the few over the many. Some cells of the one body over all of the cells that do the work. So with that, I'm going to open it up for conversation, for questions. And Soren will sort of scan and see who's who might, who's raising their hands and call on people. And I suggest that those of you who are on the Zoom platform, scroll through the faces and just drink in each other, as we've been doing towards the very end. And those of you on YouTube, and I'm not sure you're able to do that, please know that we're scrolling you through your faces in our hearts and in our imagination. And we will see from next week whether it's not possible to have things more inclusionary. So just one last thing, and that is the kind of reminder that all of this is the meditation practice. Speech is as much a part of it as silence. Deep listening is as much a part of it as speaking. And everybody counts. There's no one right way to practice. There's no one right way to be you. But if you listen very deeply to your own heart, the world is basically crying out for every single one of us to be who we truly, truly are. And I like to say the world needs all its flowers, and every single one of you, just looking at your faces, it is so obvious how much each one of you is contributing to the flowering of your own life and in your own families. And I just love it and deeply appreciate it.
Great, Jon. So just to reiterate, we'll send an email out fairly soon, probably later today, and there will be a new link for Zoom, but we're still in conversation about which best platform on Zoom to use. But that will all come to you in an email very soon. And Jon, we have Cesar from Spain. See, Cesar, there you are.
Oh.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hi, Cesar. Nice to
Thank
see you.
Nice to see you too. Thank you very much for hosting this group and this Shanga, as you beautifully said, this World Shanga. And thank you very much, Soren, and all the work that you are doing. It's beautiful. I'm psychologist, and I'm BSR and BCT, and I've been thinking this week is like my koan for this week. In this acute moment that we are living and we are facing, you have been saying a lot how to dwell, how to live in the not knowing. But if we in this acute situation, we cannot follow the curriculum to go there like fully. I think you need some kind of practice to dwell comfortably in that not knowing mind. And in this special moment, I don't know how to convey that idea because most of the people we are searching some, I don't know how to say that, but some safety. No, we don't know. Yeah. What's going to happen with the economy, what's going to happen with our jobs, what is going to happen with the world. So dwell in the not knowing can be powerful, and it is, but well, I don't know how to convey that in a person who is not a practitioner of mindfulness. So I will love some ideas from you to do that.
Yeah. Well, what a beautiful and poignant and important question to voice at this particular moment. So you're absolutely right. This not knowing, of course, none of us know what's going to happen. We just simply never know the future. All we can really know is the present. And when the present is full of suffering and full of pain and full of fear, then well, most people don't want to look at that. They want to run away or cling to some kind of idea of what might save us or save me, because it comes down to me and my family, my children, my work, my job, and so forth. And we recognize that. And there, of course, that's only natural. And in some sense, we're all going through it. But as I was saying, the people who are suffering the most, who have the least and who are the least insecure, 10 million people have lost their jobs, or more than 10 million people in the past 2 weeks in the United States. 10 million, and probably by next week, it'll be 15 million. So the economy is just completely collapsing, and in many ways, the world economy. And so where do I fit in? Where do I belong? And how do I continue to live? These are existential problems. And so for a meditation person to come along and say, oh, just don't worry, just stay in the not knowing, it'll all work out in the end. It's like, are you kidding me? Get out of here. So the most important thing is to listen and to just let people express their pain and their suffering, and to not fall into, as we often do in the healing professions, fall into fixing, trying to fix. I see you shaking your head, so you know what I'm talking about. But it's very easy to try to kind of, in some sense, tell them something that will make them feel better. But under many circumstances, like there's nothing to say that's going to make anybody feel better. And they know that you can't fix them, but you can connect with them in their suffering, in their pain. And that just not feeling isolated and alone, feeling recognized, feeling that your pain is being held by another is a gift in itself. And then everybody already knows that they don't know where things are going to go. So you don't need to make that a kind of important part of any kind of work that you're doing with people in therapy, or, you know, whatever you're doing with people. The most important thing is for you to not lose your heart, and for you to hold their beauty in the space that in which you're relating to them, and then help in whatever, materially, in whatever ways that you can. I mean, people are trying to find ways to bring money in or to stay safe or whatever it is. And no one has the kind of answers to all these life problems. We are really in it together. So I think that ultimately kindness, compassion, and your presence is the most healing thing that you can give to people at this time, and not trying to teach them to be mindful, because that would help them be more equanimous or wiser or anything like that. That would be a disaster, as you know. But I think it's important for us to say it, because most of the people that probably need what we're practicing are not in this space, because they might not even have the internet, never mind a computer, never mind the time to tune in to what looks a lot like nothing. Thousands of people coming online to practice what looks a lot like nothing, which I've been trying to emphasize is fundamentally everything. But if you don't have food and you don't know where your children are going to be sleeping tonight, if you're homeless, if you're without a job, you're not going to be meditating. You need food and shelter and true sort of safety before you can come to this domain of fine-tuning our awareness. That, I don't know how much that helps, but that's what my heart is feeling at the moment.
Okay, it's fine.
Also, I'll just say one more thing, and that is that I trust that, you know, as I've been saying, where the question is coming from and you're voicing this concern, in your own heart, you have many different responses to that level of suffering. And that the suffering of others will actually transform you in your willingness to meet it. And that's the work of compassion. It changes all of us. Thank you, Cesar.
I don't know how to pronounce this next name, but I'll do my best. Giuliella DeGrassi. You want to just say where you're from, where you're calling in from, and let's see. I think you're unmuted. Now you're unmuted.
Okay. Okay. Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi. I'm a little bit stressed right now. I'm really failed. I'm calling from France, but I'm Italian. I'm working here in France like a psychologist too, like Cesar, in a senior retirement home. Right now, I'm looking for some advice, actually, from you, Jon. That I'm really, really grateful for this opportunity. It's really, really amazing what are you doing right now. I try to propose some session of meditation to the employees of the retirement home, especially the caregivers, because I think that they are actually living a lot of stress, actually. And I'm feeling like for now, I just can meditate with 3 people once. And I have the feeling right now that just, I don't know, maybe they don't really understand meditation. They can't see what for. I try to write some what it is meditation, what is not meditation, but maybe can you give me some advice for a simpler way to do it? If I have to do it,
Well,
maybe, I don't know.
Somebody asked the question just the other day about emergency room physicians or nurses, and what is there one thing that I would say to them? And of course, they haven't been trained in meditation or anything else. And I said, you could use the breath as a life jacket or a life preserver. That if the one thing that you could actually do to help yourself is to just hang on to your breathing. And when your mind goes crazy and you remember, hang on to the breathing. And when your mind goes crazy again, hang on to the breathing and feel your breath in your body. That's something that everybody can do. I wouldn't even call it meditation. Sometimes people have their own ideas about meditation, and then they feel like, why do I want this? And why are you motivated to teach me meditation? It's such a horrible moment, and maybe you have your own secret hidden agendas and so forth. So it's suspect to try to sort of, promote meditation. What we're really promoting is human connectedness, human awareness, human wisdom, human heartfulness. And so you use your own being as the instrument to help other people in whatever ways seems most appropriate. Your being does all the work. Your being embraces their heart, their suffering with compassion. They'll feel that. That's an enormous gift. Then materially speaking, or practically speaking, you do whatever you can to help. So you let your life be as much an action-oriented help as possible, rather than, oh, we're just all meditating until the virus disappears. Okay, but it's very important not to try to sell meditation or convince people that what they really need to do now is meditate, because you'll sound like, some kind of proselytizer or with a hidden agenda. Oh, Cesar is with his like little child there, how beautiful. And in the process, hola, and in the process, you lose that connectivity of the heart. So I guess the short way to say it is to be the meditation practice rather than teach the meditation practice. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, totally, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it requires your imagination. And that's what we need. We need imagination. We need creativity. We need a lot of it from everybody. And everybody can contribute differently. So everybody has a kind of karmic assignment. And we need to ask ourselves deeply, what is my karmic assignment in this moment? And then just trust that for now, that'll be good. And then the people who you're working with, they're going to teach you everything you need to know, of course, as usual.
Yeah.
Including your own family. So thank you and good luck.
Thank you to you, mate. Thank you. Thank you to you.
And again, apologies, we can't get to everybody. We're just, Jon, Bashu, and I are just looking through names and grabbing some people. Ines, again, I hope I pronounced this correctly, from Brazil. You are now live.
Hi there.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. What's your name?
Inês.
Inês, sorry.
Inês.
Init. Okay.
Ines. Yes. Thank you so much for doing this for us all, Soren and everybody else who's watching us here. I'm another psychologist as well, the third in a row here. And I think what you just told Julianne, I don't know her name, is similar what I was thinking as well. I work at the Brain Institute in Rio, and I work at the Epilepsy Center. And I'm here, every time I'm here with you, I'm thinking, how can I help the patients there? Which I'm not there. I'm not working right now because we can't get into the hospital.
Yeah, you can't go to work.
Yeah, and then I think, how can I help them? And just helping Julianne, what I do is WhatsApp. I contact them through WhatsApp.
Wonderful.
And just saying, hi, how are you doing? I'm here if you need me. And then when they come back to me, they say breathing. Exactly what you said, Jon. And I think I feel in my heart, I really want to help them, but I can't do everything I would like to do because, I have my limitations as well.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
But that's beautiful to connect on WhatsApp because lots of people, that's how they do it.
Yeah.
And, the connection is everything.
Mm-hmm.
I've been emphasizing from the beginning, like interconnectedness. That is in some sense the nature of all life. All of our biology is interconnected. I've been trying to sort of point to the fact that we're all virtually the same in different bodies, the same biology, and to a large degree, the same psychology. We suffer in the same ways. When we get attached to an outcome, we suffer. It's guaranteed. It's the Four Noble Truths, and the first truth is not that life is suffering, but that there is suffering in the world. The pandemic is showing us, oh, you thought there was suffering before, Wuhan, China, but now there's like a whole other element of suffering that we're now facing. And you can only do what you can do as a human being. But the more you reach out to the people that are in the hospital, the more that you stay connected, they'll feel your heart's connection to them, and they'll feel met and seen and recognized in ways that may seem trivial, but they're far from trivial, because that's what we most want, is to be seen and felt by other people. They know that you're not, going to rescue them or magically make their life different. But when they know that they count in your heart, that's a gift. And a gift we can give to each other, and it's free. And it even doesn't take that much time. It just takes a willingness to not be so self-focused that we basically treat other people as if they're objects instead of miraculous beings and geniuses. Thank you for that, Ines.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Stay
Thanks
well.
Stay safe. For your words. Thank you.
Yeah, in Rio.
In Rio. And you be safe too, in your family.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. I'm looking through the list here. Lizzie, let's see. Oh, you don't have a video, but we can maybe try a video. But Lizzie calling from Poland may not. I might need to find somebody with a video. It says, Lizzie, can you hear me? Or can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, let me try with a video. Oh yeah, it's a bit dark in here. Hi, I'm calling from Poland.
Yeah, hi. Where in
Once
Poland?
again. Oh, nice. I have never had a chance to meet you, so I'm endlessly grateful for what you're doing, Jon. And I didn't expect to be unmuted, so thank you, Soren.
Oh, there you are. We can see you too. You're right. It's dark there.
Yeah, I just have a little lamp to minimize electricity consumption. I'm a bit worried that people, in the wake of this terror, when this crisis, when it's over, people might become even more selfish. Because I think that in the war, it's like we see the enemy, we know we're running for our lives, but now we're practicing social distancing. We are forced to do that by our government. And I just don't know what's going to happen. And I wanted to ask you, how do you see that?
Well, first of all, let me just drink in the feeling behind what you're saying, because I can feel it. And that I don't know what's going to happen. And the fear in that is huge. And you know what? None of us know what's going to happen. And as I've been trying to suggest without, terrifying all of us, is that there are all sorts of forces of darkness that are kind of oriented towards control and power in the hands of a very small number of people, always at the expense of the larger number of people. And in crises of this kind, where the economy falls apart and everything, first of all, you look for people to blame. That's always something that we've done historically. Who's to blame for this? And in the old days, I mean, witches in the United States, we would burn witches when anything, women, not witches, but we would burn them in Massachusetts, where I live. So this is part of human history. And I think that it's fair and it's wise and it's good to be worried in a certain way, to at least know that humanity has a lot of lessons to learn before it can grow fully into itself and create peace, what we all want on Christmas when we say peace on earth. What about every day is Christmas? So peace on earth every day. The coronavirus is bad enough, but then oppressive, state control is, and global, sort of capitalism also can be very, very damaging to the vast majority of people. So, so what I'm saying is honor your own feelings, but then realize that you, in some sense, by feeling these feelings, are expressing in a certain way the possibility for being able to hold them and know that that's not the whole story, because you're here and you're tuning into this. So you're a force, as to quote the Dalai Lama, why not be a force for good? You are a force for good already. And people love you and you love other people. That's a beginning. And then can you expand that field so that you love more people, you serve more people, you care for more people, and don't make yourself the center of the universe so much about your own concerns. And if all of us do that, there's no force of, in the world that can contain that kind of love. This is an invitation to actually recognize that the power of awareness is it's a radical force for, of love in the world. It's love expressed as wakefulness, as a kind of liberated selflessness that doesn't need more this or more that to feel complete, because guess what? We actually are already complete, and we're completely ignoring that and therefore ignorant. So how you actually thread these needles and how you deal with what's going on in Poland or what's going on in Brazil or Rio, in Brazil or any place else, the levels of poverty, the levels of, all of this stuff, we don't need to go into the details of the full catastrophe of the human condition, but we do need to remember that the beauty of the human condition is that we can actually embrace the full catastrophe and dance with it, which is what Zorba did, where I got the phrase, the full catastrophe, from Kazantzakis' novel, Zorba the Greek. We're dancing in the midst of the pandemic and everything else, not dancing with, happy hearts, because how can you be happy when people are dying that don't need to be dying because they don't have enough respirators in what Trump calls the greatest country in the world. They're the greatest country in the world, but we don't have respirators and we can't respond in a timely fashion because we're making political calculations for how it's going to look. So thank you for the question. And we're counting on you, we're counting on all of us to contribute to this renaissance, I would say, the flowering of possibility, where why can't we have a global renaissance now when we're past this pandemic and we put in place kind of laws that actually create safety for everybody on the planet and reduce the possibility of further pandemics, and then up the level of how we will respond to them, which we know how to do in ways that harm the least people and maximize the benefit. that's the agenda for the moment, our karmic agenda, so to speak, karmic assignment. And I'm hoping, and this will be the last thing for this, today's time together, is that we're all contributing to exactly that. Rewriting history, starting over in a certain way, taking what's best from the past and what's most to be learned from the present moment, and actually paying it forward and rewriting the future in ways that maximally benefit humanity and really all life and the planet itself and the cycles, the environmental cycles on the planet that keep us alive and that keep all life alive on this planet. The planet could care less, the sun doesn't care, the rest of the solar system doesn't care, and the greater universe doesn't care. We should care, and it's our responsibility. So let's think in terms of a global renaissance in the coming decades, and that we can build it together out of our hearts. So let's take a final few moments as we come to the end of our time together. And with all that's been said and all that hasn't been said and everything that's been asked and all the questions, of course, the thousands of questions that haven't been asked, and just let's cradle them in our own heart in this moment. And recognizing that we are already complete right in this moment. As long as the breath is coming in and out of your body, there's more right with you than wrong with you, no matter what you think is wrong with you, no matter what you're suffering from. And affirming that this silence is always here and available 24/7, even when you wake up terrified in the middle of the night. And that this love affair of the meditation practice is cultivatable when we're willing to step forward and step into our lives and embrace the full catastrophe of what's happening and not be caught up in the stream to such an extent that we lose our minds when we most need to discover them and inhabit them, and that we lose our hearts when we most need to find our capacity for open-hearted generosity and benevolence and caring. And it's all right here, right now, 24/7, and we're all in it together. And I just love that. And so just to say, Soren and I and John Basho have put our heads together, and we're definitely doing 5 days next week. So same time, same station. See you on Monday. If you care to join, you're welcome to invite your friends and social networks to join as well. This can be as big as we want it to be, although we don't particularly need it to be bigger than it is right now. In other words, whoever's drawn to it, that's absolutely fine. We're not trying to, maximize anything except our own interconnectedness and beauty, and of course, possibility. So one deep breath in, one deep breath out. And then Soren is going to open it up as we do it. We've already developed customs in this space. He's going to open it up so that we can all say goodbye to each other and scan through our photographs of each other.
So everyone's unmuted. If you want to say goodbye or any wishes or blessings, you are now unmuted.
And see you Monday.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Blessings to everyone.
Muito obrigada por tudo.
Yes, I mean, pretty soon.
Obrigada.
Everybody.
Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Semana que vem.
Jasmine Pashem.
Nada. Buona serata.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Las malpractices.
Everybody. Bye bye.
Te lo pongo en el piso es por una razón. En el piso es por una razón que lo tengo que limpiar. Déjalo en el piso.
I'll see you next week.
Next week.
Everybody.
I love you. Au revoir.
So much, Jon. Thank you.
At this time, not
Au
gonna
revoir.
Bye, man. Friendly to
No.
Au revoir.
You have.
To all of you.
Ciao.
Don't expect to be here for the month of grace. No complaints, but I'm grateful that
Bye.
Yeah, and I love that I had you with me right at the top of my screen, and every time I would
obrigada.
I search and
amazing.
I was like screaming.
Nice.
Thank you.
Say bye.
No, mine was
Gracias. Ciao.
Thank
Gracias. Gracias.
Hello.
Yes.
It probably says
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
like she
Everyone.
to go.
baby
You're
are
like, "Well, they are."
selfish version of themselves.
You know my mom and dad, right?
Oh, getting started.
you.
Nice.
Rick as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jon.